The tropics are not slowing down at all here across the Western Pacific. We have two systems still here. Goni, it is a shell of its former self, but still nearing Vietnam, and also Atsani, known as Siony in the Philippines. That system located towards the south of Okinawa, northeast of Luzon. Talk about that one in a second, its interaction with Okinawa and how it could impact Luzon. But I do want to mention first some of the new images we're getting out of Catanduanes. Widespread power outages and communication blackouts there. But just the new images show you what a Category 5 type system does as far as damage is concerned, and it's widespread destruction. Deaths at 16 at this time, not to make light of 16 deaths, but that is relatively low to what we have seen with past storms. So it is kind of a saving grace here. I want to show you the intensity of this storm, though. This was Haiyan in Samar, the impact on the radar there before and after. This is the radar in Catanduanes, the before and after. Almost a striking similarity here. This is a partnership with JMA, by the way, with Pagasa in getting these operational. And they've been struggling because this is not only the only times. We actually had two other instances where the radars were damaged. One reason why, you know, these help so much with forecasting these storms coming on shore, and hopefully they get that back up and operational soon. All right, let's talk about Atsani here. First, I do want to mention, like I said, look at this high pressure off towards the north. Now, that is going to provide a bit of shear on its northern periphery, but it's also the interaction between the high and this monsoonal trough, more or less, stretching through the South China Sea, is creating very gusty winds from Taiwan through the southern Japanese islands. And in fact, high wind and gale warnings are in place for Naha and Okinawa here. So definitely some rough seas on the northern periphery of the islands there. As far as the storm itself, though, it is continuing to deepen just south of that high pressure. We are starting to see actually a big burst of convection wrapping up in here. Now, I don't expect this to become a major typhoon like we've seen with Goni, and there's a few reasons. It's a few degrees further north.
Landslide out there.
So we're not in that Philippine Sea effect range, but I do expect severe tropical storm, possibly a typhoon out of this. These storms have been surprising us one after another, so I'm not going to take that off of the table, but I'm telling you, the official forecast right now keeps it at a severe tropical storm intensity. I'm leaning more towards possible minimum typhoon, though. 74 gusty 112 kilometer per hour winds. Pressure is at 998 hectopascals, so it has deepened a bit from yesterday. Track now becoming a bit more concrete because we are seeing that high pressure move in from the north. That gusty winds across Okinawa, for example, that's going to keep this south. So this is not going to recurve north. It definitely is going to be moving west across Batanes, northeastern Luzon. You are well within that cone of air, and even southern areas of Taiwan as well. Take a look at the model forecast. You kind of see what I'm talking about. It lingers there for a second and then pulls off here towards the west. This is the HWRF model as we go ahead into your Thursday morning. Here's Luzon, and maybe it's hard for you to see right there. That's a Pari. And you got Batanes up and through here. This actually has a little bit further towards the south, with these islands kind of getting the wrath of the storm at a Category 1 type intensity, but you still have those rain bands wrapping through. So even though this area, even over towards Cagayan, is not going to get a direct hit based on the current forecast, I still think some of those rain bands could be coming through, bringing those localized gusty winds and heavy rainfall. See here, this is the same time frame with the winds. Gustier conditions stay offshore, affecting the islands, but you still could have some of those rain bands. Now, like I said, they're still in the cone of air. The changes a few hundred kilometers, I shouldn't say a few hundred, about 50 to 100 kilometers towards the south makes a big difference. Towards the north, vice versa, makes a huge difference in improving the forecast as well. So can you continue to watch this storm system? But Goni also continues to near Vietnam out here, drifting off there towards the west. Talk about that in a second. All right, so here's the main points with Atsani. Passing through the Luzon Strait, minimum typhoon possible north of Apari, and the long-range forecast could be moving out towards Vietnam on the tails of Goni as well, which is also nearing Vietnam at this time. They do not need another system here. Now, here's the good news. This is a shell of its former self. It is barely a tropical storm, 64 kilometer per hour winds, 35 knots in the center of circulation. That's what you need to be a tropical storm. That's the minimum. And this just continues to be disrupted out here thanks to that shear kind of interacting on it, coming on shore. The main impact is going to be rainfall here across the mountains of inland Vietnam over towards Laos as well. Some areas as much as 500 millimeters plus could be seen. So flooding and landslides because not only the rain, but the previous storms. The last 2 months, we had about 6 storms in this exact same area. It's just rough. You need a break. Anyways, hey, coming up here in the next several days, I'm putting together a video about the impacts of Goni, but also the forecast. Was there a failure in the forecast? And you know what? This is absolutely fantastic graphic kind of illustrating the forecast versus a track. And it did edge further and further south throughout the forecast. There are reasons for this. And I think it's important that we go back and just kind of reanalyze why this happened. And was there a forecast? I don't think there wasn't a dramatic failure. The forecast slightly changed as it edged towards the south, but it did remain well within the cone there. Anyways, there's something I'm going to go through, kind of discuss it with you guys a little bit more in detail. Thank you very much, Lex, Western Pacific Weather, for putting that graph together. Legend. Anyways, please subscribe to this YouTube channel as well if you have already not. Big jump in subscriptions over the past several days. I appreciate that. I hope you find these videos useful. If you don't already, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. I don't just post stuff in the Western Pacific, post around the world, any big events going on. Mainly this YouTube channel is for the Western Pacific though. Yeah, as always though, stay safe out there. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please let me know. And thanks for watching.